This is part two of my conversation with my friend Velatar. We're picking up where we left off, talking about shadow work, both from a Jungian perspective as well as a neo pagan spiritual perspective that has been such a hot topic lately. In this section, we're going to go into why shadow work isn't just a thought process and you can't think harder through it. We're also going to talk about why AI can't actually do the work for you and why going it alone often increases shame rather than reducing it. If you haven't seen part one, I'm going to create a link at the end of the video so you can look at it there. But this video can stand on its own as well.
If you're working with your own personal trauma, make sure you have real support from a qualified, trained, and licensed professional.
It's basically this why I made a joke earlier before we started this, Gen Xers, we are an entire generation where, and a buddy of mine at work, he and I started the path together to a certain degree. He said it aptly. Guys were only allowed to have three emotions: angry, lust, okay.
What
You
about
weren't allowed,
happy?
happy was covered by okay.
Oh, okay.
Because whenever you got asked, how are you doing? I'm okay. I'm fine. That covered the gambit.
Which
You could have
means,
actually been okay and happy, or you could have been that kind of, I'm not going to tell you.
do you think that there's a line there between millennials and Gen Xers, where Gen Xers and older have much grief and fear in the unconscious then?
I don't think it's grief and fear in the unconscious. I think they were literally just raised wrong. I think it's basically societal norms. Just, you said the non-individual subconscious, the societal subconscious, just that's the aspect of it, is recognizing that from a societal standpoint, we've just been programmed wrong.
Well, but if consciously, instead of being afraid or having a sense of sadness or grief or disenfranchisement or a powerlessness, that you immediately go to rage because it's allowable, the unallowable emotions then go into the shadow.
I can see that. I can understand
So
that.
then things, grief and fear and powerlessness come out in really nasty ways, which I think we are in the midst of right now, watching it on a collective level.
I said it more than a few times. I work with some people who are basically some kids that are they're not alphas yet. They're Z's, they're late Z's. And people that make fun of them, all kids these days, young folk these days. Honestly, the young folk nowadays are way more in touch with what's real than we ever were. And I think whenever I hear somebody say that, you're just jealous. You're just jealous
You're
because
jealous of their emotional intelligence and their sensitivity. And I'm saying sensitivity as being strength, as being nuanced, as being aware, rather than being, oh, you're too sensitive.
no, aware is a very good word for it.
Okay.
Yes. They are very aware and they're very open about their feelings. And thankfully I've been through the journey that I have over the last 5 to 7 years. It's only recently that I've gained the emotional intelligence as an adult, for crying out loud, in my middle ages, that I can relate and see it in the young folk now. It's amazing to watch. It truly is amazing.
Looking at two different things. One, pop psychology, popular shadow, and what we were looking at in the early 2000s as shadow work. The story that comes to mind that I'm using as an example for working with tarot for yourself is when I was young, late teens, all through my 20s, trying to do tarot readings for myself. Often I would get this kind of snarky, critical thread through my readings. And I could never figure out why my cards were mean to me until I started doing Jungian analysis. See, the reason why you're laughing is because we can see other people's shadows. It's very hard to see our own shadow. And you knew how hypercritical I was of myself during that time period. From a Jungian perspective, that's a inner critic complex, mainly related to my negative father complex. I wasn't aware of that then. What was actually cutting me off from being able to connect to something that maybe was more of the self or more transcendent or more guided by the higher self or something like that, the AA terms would be higher power, that kind of a guided place, was because I had this complex in the way. And a lot of shadow work is about being able to, instead of the complex creating a funhouse mirror that you can't see clearly, you have the wrong prescription on, it's that you can see clearly and you're removing that warped lens. And I get better information from my tarot readings now. They usually directly relate to the dream work that I'm doing as well, because I've worked hard at starting to dismantle a lot of those complexes that I hadn't integrated an understanding of at that time. That's my example about shadow work and interacting with those pieces. I wasn't productive with it in my 20s because of things that complex that was in the way, that I thought, I have to really dig in. I really have to work with this criticism. I have to mold myself into something that it can serve better, when in fact, it was actually in my way.
And the
It's
problem,
not about a conscious understanding. It's not a thought process. When it's about emotional integration, it doesn't matter what you think.
people discover that one. It's the entire process. It's the thought process. It's the search process. It's the integration process. It's the comeback and debriefing process. And the simplest thing can take years to go through all those processes. You're still looking at years of processing that and looking back at everything that's ever happened in your past from a societal point of view.
Well, something that also sounds like a repetition compulsion, where you're stuck not being able to see what's missing. You continue to repeat a pattern that you feel something. Freud was saying that we engage in repetition compulsion because we're trying to find a different outcome.
You're not wrong.
How does your understanding change for yourself?
I used to think that the process was literally figuring out that you had a shadow issue, identifying the shadow issue, and then just living with it instead of actually dealing with it, as far as going through the process and trying to heal from
It's
it.
masochistic.
Kind of avoidance too. It's like once you've identified it, you can avoid it. That the denial almost to a certain degree, and a little bit of masochistic.
Oh, so this is a problem. I either beat myself up about it, or that's almost avoiding triggers. When we have flashbacks and PTSD, it's trying to get us to metabolize things little by little and help our bodies understand that we're safe now. You can avoid triggers. Your life is going to get smaller and smaller. The idea is, can you face the triggers, still feel safe, be able to metabolize the unprocessed trauma so that you can move to a different place?
Face the triggers in a safe way. You can avoid the triggers when you know you're in a situation that is not safe. That
Not masochistically.
if you're go ahead and embrace the triggers when you're in a place or with someone or people that you trust and feel safe with. And it's when you just see the triggers and say, no.
Gotcha.
It's not good. And that was my very early on, very young idea of shadow work. I also attach some of the same process, or even to the same definition, shadow work, to ego refinement work.
Sure.
Is the idea of refining the ego, working with the ego, and
It's the same thing as integration of consciousness. A healthy, strong ego is an ideal in psychoanalytic psychology.
it's When I really started, I think honestly, my shadow work and my processing of it definitely took the next step when I made that connection. That ego and shadow work are basically the same damn thing. Like when I made the connection, science and spirituality and energy work are the same thing. Then
Well, I
my,
mean, we make erroneous splits in things in our current culture where we over concretize things, we over quantify things.
it's that whole idea that it was never meant to be. Same thing with ego, shadow work, magic, spirituality, and science. And what's actually really ironic, if you look at what we call physics now, is what he used to call metaphysics. What was in those papers, what we would call papers, the second book.
A lot of what Jungian psychology is trying to do is saying there are things in the unconscious that create outcomes that we can't necessarily pinpoint, that we know are there because of how the outcomes are manifested. And it's trying to bring in the idea that there are archetypal energies and that there is mythic consciousness in addition to scientific consciousness, and that when we only look at reductive, concretized science, we miss out on things that would give us a fuller understanding of reality.
And I love that basically the idea of manifestation and brings about has become a part of the pop culture, that it's become more out there rather than just a pagan thing.
I think it's also watered down.
You're not wrong. It's brought up. At least it's out there. It's still there. The people are still having that conversation, and they will learn what the non-watered down version is. I still, at the same token, I still believe that there is a place for the hard sciences. We need them there. We still need them to be concrete the way that they developed, and we make them nice and concrete. We prove them with the scientific method, and we prove them with numbers. We prove them with math and everything else that goes along with it. And then we take a step back, and now we look at, okay, what's the deeper part of here? What's the philosophy? What's the meta part of this? How does this relate to spirituality? How does this relate to spirit? And I don't need math and science to prove that my energy work and my magic work.
I mean,
nice.
that relates to Jung. Somebody asked Jung, do you believe in God? And he said, no, I don't believe in God. I know. And it's when you have a direct experience that changes your conception of how reality works. It's not about belief. It's about inner gnosis.
The fifth elemental. The idea of gnosis, quintessence.
So what do you think about the popular idea of people pointing each other's shadows out to each other? Because I think that's a real problem. And I think it gets really mean. Even when I'm pointing things that out to my clients who pay me to do them, I make sure that I am aligned with how the dream is bringing up the issues, that I am aligning with their unconscious and what their unconscious wants to tell them. Their dream maker, not my opinion, how they're bringing it up through their unconscious derivatives, their stories and their dreams and their artwork. It's not about me as the person in power pointing at them. It's me connecting them with themselves. It's psychopomp work. And psychopomp work is not about power. It's about connection.
No. Thank you. Thank you for using the P word. Thank you for using the power word.
Well,
that was
Maria Louise von Franz, who was a contemporary of Jung and one of his close colleagues and students, said that she thought psychoanalysis was the modern day shamanic psychopomp work.
To answer your previous question, I hate it. I think it's a terrible thing. I think it's if you're trained in it, I think it's basically a violation of privacy. You're effectively, it's the same thing as somebody who says, I'm psychic. Can you read what I'm thinking? No. Why? That would be violation of your privacy.
Right. That's the same thing as me being at a conference and somebody putting their hands on me and telling me they're going to give me Reiki without my permission. I
Yeah.
believe that in spiritual communities too. There's a problem with power there.
In any group, unfortunately, I do agree with her on this one. In any group, you're going to have power dynamics.
Just because there's people involved.
And you're going to have the power dynamics. And you're going to have the people who are going to feel, I'm pointing this out, or I'm doing this because I'm helping. And I don't want to work with this. And they might generally believe that. Are they really doing it to help you, or are they doing it to make themselves feel better?
Or is it a power play?
Are they doing some kind of subconscious power play where it's, hey, I'm going to prove that I'm better than you because I can do this, or that I can even see this, or that,
Or you're going to be afraid of me because now I have power over you.
it's one thing to do it, say you're high priest of your coven during a ritual, whatever, where you have there's a law within.
There's an implied consent there.
Implied consent within media and stuff, that privacy laws.
I still think that you have to be careful with stuff because positions of power are also positions of incredible trust.
And I know everybody will do the perfect love and perfect trust aspect of coven.
Oh, I forgot about that. I don't believe that's
there's
perfect anymore. I actually work with recovering perfectionists now. Because it's not real. The Hindu concept is ahimsa, which is more trying to do as little harm as possible to the best of everybody's. That's a harm reduction kind of a concept.
And I think that's honestly probably the truest way to look at it. Where it's, you're going to cause harm through life. You just are. And it's just trying to do as little harm as possible. That's a worthy goal.
Here's the thing. What we're talking about here is why it's useful to do shadow work. You can look at where you stink and take care of it instead of just assuming that you've painted yourself with a wide brush and that you're a good person and that you never have to look at it. Because we all do harm. Everybody has consequences to their actions, and we all have bias, to put it lightly.
It is very uncomfortable truth that none of us are perfect in any way, shape, form, or whatever. It's and assuming that you can love somebody perfectly, that you could trust or give that trust perfectly, and give that love perfectly is its own conceit. When I started working with Lighthaven, trust was a huge issue with me. It still is, because of just things that have happened in my past. And I don't think the way I judge trust on people isn't, hey, I trust you or I don't trust you. It's percentages. I trust you 70% or 60%, that kind of thing. Now, after working with for 6 years, there are members, not all of them, there are members of Lighthaven that it's 90 to 95%. It's not 99, it's not 100, not perfect. It's the highest ratings among, and I have a couple other people that have pretty high ratings.
It's not all or nothing either. That's something that humans betray each other. Consciously or unconsciously, and it's, can we repair? Can we change? Can we work on it? Can we make new agreements? Can that be renegotiated?
My favorite thing lately has been whenever you say, I'm never going to lie to you. I don't say that anymore. I say, I will never knowingly lie at you, because information changes. I will never do this. I will never do that. Phrases need to come out of our conversation. I will never hurt you. Yes, you will. I will never lie to you. Yes, you will. I will never betray you. Yes, you will. It's
it's a matter of scale. I will not do something on purpose maliciously.
Yes, I know. And that's why I say I will never knowingly lie to you. I will never purposely harm you on purpose. If I do it unconsciously or if I do it by accident, because I accidentally swung a hand in the wrong direction, I smack you across the face. Guess what? I didn't mean to do that.
Accidentally step on your foot.
Stuff that. I'm doing harm.
Right.
Or if I take you out to eat and you have food poisoning, That stuff happens, and just accepting that, I think, is a huge part of being human. You can't make those promises, and anybody who does is basically lying to you and lying to themselves to a certain degree.
And the lying to ourselves, that's where the shadow piece comes in. Is the
100.
places where we're blind. It's literally blind spots. I have gotten so much further doing Jungian analysis for myself with that shadow work, having somebody that I trust, not implicitly, that's not the right word. Explicitly, there we go. Someone I trust explicitly helping me look at my blind spots, because it is very hard to see your own blind spots.
Oh, and you hit such a huge nail on the head. You can't do shadow work alone.
Thank you. I did not want to prep you on that one. That's what I think is the main problem right now with the popular movement of shadow work, is that people think they're doing it by themselves. And I think mainly what it's doing is increasing shame. And
Yeah.
this is funny because we're hitting on something that I have people look at me and they go, what do you mean by that? And that's what psychoanalysis is for, shadow work. And that's what Jung was doing with people, was helping them look at their blind spots. Can't see the back of my head. You'll never see the back of my head without mirrors. And that's what we're talking about. Somebody holding up enough mirrors that you can see what's behind you.
And that person you said earlier has to be somebody, or should be someone, it doesn't have, it should be somebody that you feel safe with, that you trust to talk about this stuff with. Also to trust that they're not going to just, does this dress make me look fat? Yes, it does. Okay, I'm sorry. It does not.
I'm also the kind of person that I don't, if I'm asking that question, I actually want a real answer.
In shadow work, you want the real answer.
Right, because I don't want to look horrible. It's actually, the back of your skirt is tucked into your underpants, and we got to fix this.
I put it on inside out. Good.
And on top of that, it's not appropriate work to do with your friends. It's not appropriate work to do with your intimate partner.
I would disagree to a degree. I would feel I feel that's the kind of work that you should feel comfortable to do with your partner. They should be able and willing, you should feel safe and trustworthy enough with them that you can ask the hard questions of them of, hey, this aspect of me, how do you see it? There's a point where you're right, you can't rely completely on. That's where you need to actually have the professional come in too.
I'm going to make some differentiations here, because this is something I have to be really careful about, that I don't put myself into a strange power dynamic with my partner, that I'm not becoming my partner's therapist or my partner's mother. That's really not okay. I'm always reminding myself that this is my part. We are in a partnership together. We are always equals. My job is support and a friend. I don't want to put it in a place where there's a inappropriate power dynamic where we're no longer equals. Definitely listening. Hey, I'm thinking about this. Can you help me process it or think through it? Or can I get your perspective of how you see this? And I think that's appropriate partner friendship kind of stuff. When it goes to, and you can even say, hey, this is an issue and we need to do something about it. Again, that's relational kind of stuff. This is a problem. This is how it affects me. This is why I can't continue this. And what's our solution? Not in a talking down to someone or one person being the expert and the other person. That's the whole realm of mansplaining and things like that.
It could get to that point. Get to the point, you're right. It's just, it should be supportive, and it should be, your partner shouldn't be the one who tells you how to do it. They should be the one that helps you to do it. You are your own guide to your shadow work. And your partner should be the one that helps you, stands beside you, stands behind you, is never the one leading you.
Pushing you off the deep end.
Or
you can swim, go for it.
Only 9 feet. Tall. It should be that partnership. It never should, because you can very easily get into that dynamic aspect, especially if somebody, I don't fully know what Jason does, especially if it's somebody with you and Jason, you're an actual trained psychologist versus if he comes to you, you have to be real careful not to go into that
Yeah.
trained
Yeah.
psychologist person. At the same
Yeah.
token,
I'm a
Why?
therapist. I'm not a psychologist.
Okay, as the same token, you still want to be his wife, his life partner, and be supportive.
And I'm always asking myself, making sure that my role is the supportive partner piece. What is my role as a spouse? What is my role as a best friend? That kind of a thing. Not, oh, let's have a therapy session together. I'm real careful about not doing that.
And here's the other thing, going the extreme of saying, nope, I'm not going to talk to you about this is also just as harmful to him.
I don't
Yeah,
think
that's personal.
I don't think I ever do that. Sometimes it's I think you need to take care of your emotions before we talk about this. That kind of thing. Because sometimes neither one of us are ready or I just need to go to bed.
Sometimes it's just that. Sometimes it's, look, I just have the spoons right now.
Right.
Can we pick this up in the morning? And that's part of just being a good communicating couple too, being willing to and that comes back to the whole thing we said earlier. You could talk to your friends, you could talk to your spouse, who you feel safe with, who you trust, who you feel comfortable with. In theory, if you trust them, you feel comfortable with them, and they're good in your good communication, that kind of stuff's going to happen. That stuff's going to be said. Hey, look, let's talk about this in the morning.
Yeah.
That kind of,
And we're getting all into the kind of concept of not having to do somebody else's emotional labor for them.
yes.
Where I'm not leading somebody with breadcrumbs for them to figure it out. It's that side by side equal kind of a partnership and support in that way. One thing that's come up a bunch lately is AI. And part of the problem with AI is that it's fanatical. And in general, it tells you you're wonderful and is your yes man. And one of the things that's different about therapists is we will challenge you. We'll tell you when you're being delusional or when things are skewed and you're not looking at the whole picture. Again, blind spots, which ChatGPT is not great about. And, I had another point. Yeah. Fanatical, challenging, is showing you things that you wouldn't be looking at otherwise, not necessarily taking your side. And there's a relational piece where then sometimes a therapist will go, what you just said, I find offensive. Like, what is the disconnect here? What just happened? We need to talk about this. This was our agreement, but this is what you did. And work on that repair work in the ongoing relationship piece too, which ChatGPT doesn't do because it's human.
Yeah. Okay. So here's a question for you. And it may kill you. Like you see now, like it's not just ChatGPT. You've got Gemini, you've got
Whatever. Yeah. AI and
I know. But what I'm saying is also you've got a bunch of these other ones that are basically your AI girlfriend, AI friend, or stuff like that, where in theory, you're supposed to be able to talk to them like a real person, to talk things out. Is there a way that you could use that as a tool?
Yes, within reason. Keeping in mind what I just said. Last Sunday, I spent several hours hashing out a complex that I was trying to work through that I'd been, like, in my business, a scarcity mindset piece that I've been trying to, like, bust through that next, like, level with. And I needed to sit with the uncomfortable feeling and the cognitive dissonance between where I actually was and where the complex was saying I was. And I would have done it on my own anyway that day, based on what my dream was that morning, just based on what I needed to be doing for myself. I was going to, was it Israel wrestling with the angel all night, the thing? Like, I was going to be wrestling with that complex anyway. But I was able to use AI as a it's saying your numbers already look good, but your nervous system isn't convinced yet. And I'm like, but what about this? But what about this? But what about that? And it kept saying, but your numbers are telling you the story. I'm not making this up. Look at the numbers. This is where you're at. It's your nervous system because you've been through so much this year. Running your own business without any type of support. Your husband's been on strike. You've done 2 major surgeries this year. You went to Zurich and passed all your intermediate exams. Like, you've done so many different things and you're freaking out because you've been in overdrive for so long. But the numbers don't lie.
Yep.
But I couldn't see it. So I had to churn with it and churn with it and churn with it until finally I broke through. So yes, absolutely, it can be used as a tool. If you are keeping your critical thinking skills there, and it's that ego strength, are you able to say, no, that's off in left field, or wow, like I'm really getting my ego stroked right now, and this is not a useful thing for me to be doing.
And that's the key one there for AI from my interactions with them is recognizing that ego stroking, because AI is very good at doing that. It is not, like you said earlier, it's not good at challenging, but it's very good at ego stroking. And you need to be recognizing when your ego is being stroked.
Right. And not strengthened. Not like now I'm improving my self-esteem, but in a like brown-nosing yes man way.
Yep.
Which gets people into trouble who don't already have that self-esteem, that ego work, or people who are vulnerable, maybe in a lot of grief, maybe with severe depression or any type of psychosis where they don't have that critical thinking ability to be able to step back and say, wait a minute.
Yeah,
Isolation is still a problem. Like doing all your own shadow work in isolation is still a problem.
And the problem is, especially post COVID-19, like there's still a lot of people who still consider themselves in isolation, or they got so used to that isolation for that year or so, and they got used to having that echo chamber, that are now coming out of the echo chamber finally and just, nope, don't like this, going back in.
And humanity is in the messy middle.
Oh yeah, we are. We're messy to begin with, but yeah, we're definitely in the messy middle.
All of that awkward messiness of humanity, that's where the beauty is. I think I found a point for us to end on. The aggression, the projection, the separating that we do of each other, the othering, all of those, the destruction of the environment where our consciousness is way too isolated. In that germ, that virus that you called it, that's also the answer of how we pull ourselves out, is being able to work on this piece that keeps us with the veil of illusion that we are separated and that we have to blame others and point the finger at others and have power over others. Like that is the solution of what we all have to work on internally, so that when we come together as humans or as creatures that live on this planet, problem is part of the solution.
Once we get ourselves whole, or learn how to get ourselves whole, then we can start recognizing the wholeness of us and the planet. And that time's, it's down the road. It's coming, but it's fortunately way down the road.
I'm about to say not our lifetimes.
Doing that work is definitely the hard part of doing that kind of work, is knowing that you will never see the result of that work, at least not in this lifetime.
Isn't there a native concept of 7 generations or something like that? It's the work you do now is for 7 generations after you.
The work I do now, I have great faith in humanity, and I still have hope for people. That's the constant reminder. You can't do this work whether it's the very real work of psychology and therapy or the magical, the equivalent of that, if you don't have the hope, if you don't have the faith in people as a species. And it sucks sometimes because you'd like to be that, because occasionally you meet people in the world where it's like but you still have to a certain degree, be like, you're still part of humanity. They still have to have hope that you will be better.
I'd rather get up and feel like I did something worthwhile, even if it was hard
Yeah.
each
Yep.
day, than not try it all.
Yeah. Lately, when people ask me, what's your goal in life? That my goal in life is, and I've said it a few times now, is if I can wake up every day and make one person smile, I will live a great life.
There you go.
If that's one person at a time, and even if I have to put my fingers on the lips, but it's how you treat, and that's part of the shadow work. It's how you treat other people, not just yourself. It's how you treat other people.
Yeah, our shadow comes out when we're around other people.
Yeah.
Thank you, Velatar, for hashing this out with me and helping me explore it. There's just certain things that I can't figure out how to talk about without it being a conversation. So I really appreciate it.
I am always here, so always willing to talk.